Dustin, welcome to the show today.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much for having me on the show, man. I love real estate investing in general, all types of real estate investing. It's more of like, it's not like real estate's fantastic. It's that what it affords me to do in my life, being financially free and successfully unemployed is what I like to call it. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I love that. And the common thread really is real estate. You know, it's made more millionaires than anything else on earth. But more importantly, you know, who wants be a millionaire? We want to control our time. We want financial freedom. And that's really what we're about. So, you know, but you probably weren't born in real estate investing like Donald Trump was. What was your story? How did you get into real estate?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't born into real estate investing. In fact, we were like poor, like really, really poor. Grew up in a 2-bedroom house. It was like 800 square feet with my brother and myself and my parents. But so I'll jump to the end and then go right back to the beginning. So the end, when I was 37 years old, I was able to quit my job and be successfully unemployed because I had over 30 rental properties. I like residential properties. And they were making me a minimum of $50 a month. $250 a month from every door. But I'll quickly go back to the beginning. So I got to tell you the story about me getting into where I was catapulted in to become an investor. So when I was younger, I was always entrepreneurial, always wanted to start businesses. I even had a newspaper route where I rode a bike with newspapers in my bags and throwing the newspapers at 5 a.m, banging them on garage doors, waking people up. Had a graphic and website design company, had a skateboard manufacturing business, even a pizzeria and a convenience store that I all developed all those on my own, build them up from scratch. But at the same time, just like everybody, I was taught you go to school, you get good grades. Then you go to college, spend thousands and thousands of dollars getting into debt and get good grades, and then get a piece of paper. It's called a degree. And then you take that degree to a job. I call it a job. You're living just over broke. And so you take that and you hopefully get a career working 40 plus years at a place and then retire when you're 65, 70 years old on half of what you raised or you saved. This is what really got me to become a real estate investor. So I was working a regular 9-to-5 job at a local county department doing IT work in California, one of the counties there. And doing IT work, my wife and I started having kid after kid. And I bought one rental property at the time. I think I might have had two. And I knew I wanted to be an investor. But, life gets in the way. We eventually had 4 kids and I kind of stopped investing. But after our 4th kid, right when she was born, our 4th child was born, I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and bonds with the baby and helps mommy and all that sort of stuff. And then I go back to work. And in that week that I go back to work on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon, I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog, says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? I said, sure. I hung up the phone and I go to the boss's office. And as I'm walking down the hallway, I sit there and I think, or as I'm walking, I think, my goodness, why are they calling me to the office? This isn't normal. And I started remembering a couple months before I went on paternity leave, there was some rumors in the office or some rumblings going on that there could potentially be layoffs. I immediately shook that off. Like, no way, there's no way that's me. I've been here 12, 13 years. I have so much seniority. My bosses think I do a great job. There's no way. So I start walking down the hallway. And as I walk, it feels like my feet become lead bricks and it's harder and harder to walk. And this hallway is rather short, but it feels like it gets longer and longer and longer because the weight of potentially losing my job is weighing on me. Well, I get through the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door is closed. And I look at his secretary and she looks at me and she sheepishly kind of grins at me and says, Dustin, would you please have a seat? And she's consoling me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I go and take my seat. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about my life. Like, oh my goodness, I thought I had to work my life and get a career. But if that's taken away from me, was that all a waste? And then if I can't provide for my family, does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy and my forehead gets all sweaty because the weight of everything is crushing down on me. Then the door to my boss's office opens up and out walks a lady. She's a coworker of mine with a piece of paper in her hands. She is noticeably distraught, noticeably upset, not necessarily crying, but you could absolutely tell her world has been rocked. And as she passes by me, my boss says, Dustin, would you please come into the office? So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. And so if it happened to me, it can happen to everybody. And so I take that layoff notice and I walk back down that short hallway to my desk, and I sit down at my desk and I realize two things right then and there. Now, I could have just wallowed in it and said, oh my goodness, and just kind of shut down. I didn't. I realized two things. Number one, I need to get another job. I need to be able to provide for my family. So I was really blessed, praise the Lord, to be able to find another job in the same county, whole nother department, sheriff's department, great department, doing IT work there. So I got that one done, check. Now, the other thing, while I'm sitting in that chair, I realized the second thing. I need to make sure this never, ever happens to me ever again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I realized I'm going to tell everybody that I'm an investor. Whenever somebody would ask me the question, Dustin, what do you do? I would say, oh, I work for the county. I do IT work at the county, basically labeling or giving my value out to somebody else as my job. No, my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God, myself, and my family. And so I realized then and there that I am going to now be an investor. It may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my part-time job. I'm a full-time investor. I'll fast forward the story. I worked for another 5 or 6 years, kept buying property after property after property, eventually got 30 plus properties. And I was like, my goodness, why am I working here? Even though I'm making $75,000 a year here, I need to quit. I'm losing money. And here's how everybody, if you get anything out of the story, you need to realize this. Your value is so much more than anybody could ever pay you. And you know this by understanding that your boss is just paying you enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money it takes money out of their pocket. So I'll round up the story by sharing, I went after I realized I had enough money from my properties, passive income, to not work. I went to my new boss and I said, boss, I'm laying you off, jokingly, but I said, here's my 2 weeks notice. And he said, Dustin, what are you going to do? And I said, boss, I don't have to do anything. I have real estate. I literally don't work and I make money. So last part of the story is I walked to my car. The very last time I walked from my work to my car, it's about a 1.5 mile walk because I was frugal. I didn't want to pay for parking. And I've taken this walk 1,000 times. Now, if you contrast this walk from me walking down that short hallway where my feet felt like they were lead bricks, I took this walk this last time. I felt like I was walking on clouds because looking back, I knew I would never, ever need another job again. So I'll pause the story and let you ask questions. You probably got lots of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. How long did it take you from that time that you started to quitting your job?
I want to say it was about 5 years, maybe almost 6 years.
That's amazing. So how did you stick with it for so long, right? Because, it's a long time and people are watching you and, Dustin's kind of crazy, right? He's crazy talking right now and he's buying a house. That's a mistake. Like, how were you able to overcome your initial fear, number one, to buy that first or house and then stick with it for 6 years?
I really thought that I was told originally, work 40, 50 years for somebody else. And I'm like, well, in 5 or 6 years, that's like a tenth of what I was going to actually have to wait that long to actually do that. So that was, for me, a big eye-opening. And then on top of that, I realized that eventually, if we play Monopoly, we'll eventually get to where we have houses and hotels, apartments and hotels, which now I actually own hotels. I'm in syndication of some hotels, which is terrific. But I realized that if I got passive income, I love passive income. If I work one time, buy one property, and it makes me money over and over again. And I realized if I was talking to my wife and I said, how much do we need to cover our expenses? And at the time, it was like $4,200 a month in passive income to be able to cover the expenses. I realized, okay, if it's $4,200, let me do math backwards. I know I can make $250 a month from every single property. And I started investing back in 2006 before the crash. And whether the market went up, down, or sideways, I still made money because I invested for passive income, not appreciation. So $250 a month, that is $3,000 a year in passive income. I realized, man, if my boss came to me and said, hey, Dustin, you want $3,000 more? I'd be like, yes, of course I would. But then I multiply that out. If I got 10 properties at $250 a month, that's $2,500 a month without working. That's $30,000 a year. Without working, 20 properties is $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year without working. I realized I could quit my job. And so after buying property after property, now I did it the wrong way. I could definitely explain how do how I did it the wrong way, and then share you the right way now, how I do it now and how I coach everybody how to do it. But that's what I realized. The end goal is getting above $4,200 to $5,000. Now I have 30 plus properties. Each one, now I'm making at least $250 a month in passive income from every single one of those properties. And I don't work. Like a lot of people know the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. And Michael, I know you guys would definitely appreciate this. I think working 4 hours a week is for suckers. I don't want to work 4 hours a week. I don't even want to work 4 hours a month. I work maybe 30 minutes a month on all of my properties because I set up the business. I have processes and systems in place so it all works on its own. And I literally just get my property management statements, look at it, then put it down and go back to play with my kids.
So Dustin, you get basically laid off from your job. How did you go from that into owning property? Like I know you got another job, but how did you kind of realize that was the path forward? And talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I already had, the first thing that I realized was working for somebody else, getting earned income was really like, everybody's taught that, but it's ridiculous. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it was like back in, I don't know, 2003, 2004, whatever date that or year it was. And I read that and I was like, my goodness, there's such a thing as passive income, working one time and getting paid over and over again. So I thought, wow, okay, it talks about real estate. Let me look into that. And so I bought 1 or 2 properties. I think I had 2 properties at the time and they were making me money. I remember the first check that I got it. In fact, I'll quickly tell you the wrong way that I did it. And this was the very first property was the wrong way to do it. And I flew from California, flew to Ohio, found a realtor and a property manager, put them together and bought a property. The first couple of checks were great, but then in 6 months, she started stealing from me. My property manager did it. It was horrible. I did it the wrong way. In fact, what I did was after I realized that it could work. Now, remember, I've always been entrepreneurial. That's how I approached, other businesses. And I listened to the quote unquote gurus, like back in 2005, 2006, the late night infomercials. Hey, we're coming to your town. It's going to be free. Come here. And then there's a sales pitch to run in the back and go spend $5,000, $10,000. So I did that. And what they told me was this is the wrong way. I'm answering your question, Garrett, in getting them the wrong way, because I want people to not do this. They told me, remember the wrong way, find an area of the country invest anywhere in the country, run the numbers, make sure you find a property, run the numbers, make sure you're making $50, $75 a month in passive income. But you're going to get appreciation, which I don't invest appreciation. I'm literally going to give these properties to my kids and teach them how to do that. Like if you could see the picture of the background of my video here, you could see I have 4 kids. I'm literally going to give these to them. So, but they tell you, find an area of the country to invest. Run the numbers, make sure you're going to make a little bit of money in passive income. Then you buy the property, spend thousands of dollars buying the property. Then you spend thousands of dollars finding somebody to fix it up. Then you spend $1,000 to fix it up. Then you find a tenant. Then you find a property manager. In my opinion, that's literally backwards. They're just about backwards. What we do at Master Passive Income, what I love to do is I build the business first because I approached it the wrong way. Then I said, you know what? This is a business. Let me figure it out. What they were telling me was one property was a business. Like, no, in my opinion, your business owns inventory. Let me give you a quick example of what that looks like. If you're going to start a convenience store, you're not going to, if soda machines, candy bars, you're not going to sign a lease, open the doors, and set a box of candy bars inside there on the ground. No, if you do that, you go out of business in like 2 seconds. What you would do, though, is you'd build the business. You get the gondolas, those shelving units that the candy bars go on, the countertops, cold storage, bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, employees, all that sort of stuff before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing. We make sure we set up the entire business to work. Then we have that business, then we buy inventory and put that inventory into our business. Our property is not your business. Your property is inventory for other people to consume. I don't eat every single candy bar in a store, but I buy it and inventory it so that people can buy it. Same thing, my properties. I'm not going to live there, but other people will. So I'll fast forward to say, that's how I knew, because I was looking at it as business. That's how I can scale my business. I already have everybody doing all the work for me. All I got to do is find another property and put that into the business. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. I think a lot of people approach real estate more of a side gig or a hobby. And I think it's for practical reasons, and that people just don't believe it's going to go anywhere, right? It's just a bit of a matter of belief. And now we do the same thing you're describing with apartment buildings, and there's an even larger hurdle of belief, right? Because someone can sort of kind of wrap their head around adding a house to a business and adding another house. The idea of adding an apartment building to a business mentally is a larger hurdle, though the steps are very similar. But approaching it from a business from day one is the right way to do it. But I think you can only do that in a lot of senses, either with a very good mentor or with hindsight, because of the reason I said. I mean, when you did your first house, you probably weren't believing that this is going to be a $1 million business. You're like, well, let me do one and see if it works.
And I did everything wrong too. I literally did everything wrong because back in 2005, 2006, when I first got started, there was nothing like this. Like your show, Michael, is just fantastic to help everybody to invest in real estate. And there wasn't this great free information on how to do this, as well as there weren't any good mentors that you could either just grab a hold to and work with, or coaches like you, Michael, and just say, hey, you've already figured out how to do this. Let me pay you a little bit of money, just like I pay thousands and thousands of dollars to colleges to get a piece of paper. Why don't I pay just a fraction of that so that I can, number one, cut the time that it takes to get to where I want to be? Meaning I shorten the time because you've taught me everything and give me the steps to get there, as well as overstepping all the landmines, all the hurdles, all the problems. In fact, what I love with my students, as I show them how to either make enough money to pay for all the coaching or anything that I do, or save enough money for all of that. Like it's just so much better when you have somebody who's literally done it, that's going to say, this is how you can do it. And watch out for that landmine. Don't step on that.
Yeah, and that's really the value of mentorship. And now this exists, and people do it. We do it with other people. But back in 2005, when I got into real estate, it didn't exist. Now, having said that, I was also too arrogant to have to hire a mentor, and that's
me too.
That's how I got into the restaurant business and lost my shirt in the restaurant business because I had some money at the time, and who needs help when you have money? And so, but mentorship is, and so had you had a mentor. If I had a proper restaurant mentor or a house flipping mentor, they would have explained the idea of, okay, you know what? The whole thing about flipping houses or landlording is that it's actually not very active it's not very passive unless you set it up properly to generate passive income. And
from the beginning.
From the beginning. And it probably took you a minute to figure that out.
It took me quite a while. In fact, like I said, my property manager started stealing from me because I didn't know how to vet property managers. I didn't know the right questions to ask or the answers that they should give. And now what I do with my students now is I literally walk them through how to build the business and do it right. And a lot of students will ask me, we'll talk about finding a new area. Let's say they found, Memphis, Tennessee, which is a pretty popular place right now. They found a place like Memphis, Tennessee, and said, Dustin, I found this area. This is where I want to invest. I've already got 5 realtors looking for properties for me. I'm like, whoa. Stop everything. Realtors are the last step. Like wholesalers, realtors, like finding the properties is easy. Managing and running the business, making sure you're making money, hiring experts on the ground who are literally going to make sure you're going to be making money and saving money. That's hard. Like Zillow is not an expert. Redfin, Trulia, those are not experts. Those are just companies trying to get your money out of you. And so you want to hire the experts. And this is what I tell everybody now. We find an area of the country that has good inventory. Lots of properties that we want to buy, lots of property that we can make in passive income. Then once we know there's inventory in that city, we pause looking at properties. Now we'll analyze some, but we're more than likely not going to buy them. They'll be gone by the time we build our business. But after we do that, we find this area, just like if you're going to build a convenience store, make sure you can get inventory. Then you have customers. Those 2 things are the number one things. Then once you know you can get those, then you start building the business. Same thing with real estate investing. We find the property managers literally first. Like that's the first thing. Find the property manager. Because if you can't find somebody to manage your property, you're gonna be pulling your hair out. I've had so many people go to me and say, Dustin, I can't take this property anymore. I don't want to be a landlord anymore. Will you just buy this property for me? Because they didn't do it right. And I say, sure, I already have the business. Buy it from them. Good for me, bad for them, put it right into my business. So that's what it looks like for me is we basically find inventory and then we jump into finding property managers. Then we find the contractors, wholesalers, plumbers, roofers, inspectors, home inspectors, mortgage companies, hard money lenders. So like we find everybody in the business before we find any properties.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really love, Dustin, that you talk about inventory because I don't think people talk about it enough, even especially in our industry or our sector with multifamily, is people come and like, okay, let me start with a market. What market should I look at? And they're like, well, one of the hottest markets is like Reno, Nevada. And I'm like, well, there's no inventory there. Like good luck
Exactly.
scaling your business in that market versus, we're in Atlanta. It took us a while to get into Atlanta. And now I could probably stay here forever because the inventory is like, it's like the second most amount of inventory in multifamily that you can find in any of the markets. And so, I don't think people talk about that enough. And I love that you touched on that because you need to scale the business. There has to be available product in a market to go off of.
I'll quickly say the last thing you want to do is build an entire business, spend all that work, and you can only find maybe one or two properties, and then you're done.
Yeah. How terrible would that be? So question I have for you is, I'm sure you looked at both sides of the business. You probably looked at multifamily and single family. Why did you stick with single family as your vehicle for financial freedom?
Well, if you remember back in 2005, 2006, when I first got started, there wasn't anybody as awesome as Michael that would show me how to do it. Everybody was literally, I'll give you exactly, this is literally happened to me. I went to, there's a 2 a.m. infomercial. Hey, we're coming to your town. Come to this free seminar. Went to the free seminar, hour, literally hype, literally pumping up of everything. Then they say, okay, now run to the back. We'll take the first 100 people. We'll cut it down from like $10,000 to $1,000. So you go to this 2-day seminar. I did that. I spent $1,000, went to this 2-day seminar. The whole thing was such a broad overview. You couldn't do anything. It was multifamily to flipping to wholesaling to rental properties. And then at the very end, the last of the second day, like half of the second day, the last day was literally all a sales pitch to get 40 or 50 or 60,000. Like if you want flipping, it's $60,000. If you want wholesaling, it's $50,000. If you want multifamily, it's $100,000. I was like, I don't have that money. Like even if I did, why would I give it to you? I'd learn from a school of hard knocks. And so that's what I did. I took that money and I bought our first property. Now I know after knowing Michael and everything that he does here, it's like I want to play Monopoly. Monopoly is the best way to get wealthy, but I know Michael says you could jump right into multifamily. For me, convincing my wife just to buy one house, let alone an apartment complex, was hard. Now we are personally, we invest in syndications now. I love putting my money to work in passive investing in the syndications as well. I'd love to get in my own multifamily. Just keep playing Monopoly all the way up.
So what would you're looking back on your career, and if you could have a conversation with your younger self, what would you do differently knowing what you know now?
It would, two things. Number one is definitely build the business first. That's no matter which business you're building. It could be a multifamily, it could be single family. Like I do residential, so that's 4 units and below. Once obviously you guys know, everybody, your audience is most likely everybody on this podcast and listening to this is much smarter than me. I'm not very, very smart. It's just addition, subtraction, a little bit of multiplication. Just add up all your expenses. Remember, business, add up your expenses, and then you get your income. That's our rents. And that difference is our passive income. That's really what it comes down to. And the multiplication is, if you want to scale to quit your job, you just multiply that out, how many you need. Like I said, 20 properties is $60,000 a month. But what I would do differently is, and I eventually fixed it and figured it out, was to build the business first and then get more people in place to do the work so that I don't have to do this. Another thing I'll quickly add, this is the reason why I created Master Passive Income, my podcast YouTube channel, was because when I bought my first property, I was like, man, I feel like I've mastered passive income because I don't do anything. I bought one property and it makes me money. And I don't do anything. Like I said, other property managers work for me. But here's the thing. It's not just the rental properties. There's so many different ways of doing passive income. Now that I've quit my job, I literally have 40 plus hours of my life back from working for somebody else that now I create more businesses that make so much more money. Like we cannot pass down our jobs to our kids. We can't do that. Like our kids cannot get our jobs, but our businesses, our real estate, our knowledge, we can absolutely pass that down. Now I'm investing for generational wealth so I can literally pass this down to my kids.
That's awesome. I love that. What kind of advice would you give someone that's just getting started in real estate and doesn't know where to get started?
The biggest, Michael, you hit it on the head. You really want to get around somebody who's done it before, who already knows the roadmap, already knows how to get there. Like if you're driving from, let's say, New York and you want to go to Disneyland, which is all the way across the country, not Disney World, but Disneyland in California, you don't want to just start driving and try to figure out the way. Just ask people along the way who have no clue how to get there. You want to get the person who's been there, knows everything about it, has the map, and they're going to show you how to get there. Same thing with anything in life, in my opinion, because we all get, I wouldn't say tricked into it, but we're taught, go to school. And that's where you get all your information. There are so many good ways. I personally believe better ways than going to school to get education. So what I would love to see is that more people get around great other mentors, coaches, just experts that are like where we're at now. I just want to help people. Like my goal is to get 1,000 people to invest in real estate, because I know the more that I serve, the better my life gets and the better other people's lives get. And the last thing I'll quickly share in this last part was there are four legacies that we should strive to leave in our life or have in our life. Number one is a money legacy. You have enough money to buy whatever you want, do whatever you want with that. The second one, that money leads into a time legacy. So the money leads into time. Now you have enough time to go wherever you want, do whatever you want, to build businesses and all that sort of stuff. The third one is a relationships legacy. So money leads into time leads into relationships, building into your kids and your spouse and your neighbors and you're building in your relationships. So each one leads in the other. The last one, I'm blessed to be at this one where I'm at a service legacy. I have the money, which gives me the time. Time gives me the relationships. And now I am trying to build those relationships into serving more people. Now my goal is to literally show as many people how to invest in real estate, how to change their life, get financial freedom, all that sort of stuff. And so getting to that service legacy is so amazing. It's so much more rewarding than anything else.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just sense your passion about real estate and financial freedom. So you and I see eye and eye on that. That's really cool. Hey, Dustin, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So I have a real estate investing course. I love just giving it away for free. I'll literally give it to you for free. If you text the word rental, RENTAL, to 33777, rental to 33777, or you can go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. All one word, /free course. I'll literally give it to you, show you how I do it, how me and my students do it, how we find an area of the country to invest, how we build the business first, how we make sure that we have the right people doing the right work for us, and how to scale the business to quit our jobs. I just love helping everybody else. Plus I have my Master Passive Income podcast. Like I said, it's just me coaching, literally just teaching how to do this, my YouTube channel, all that sort of stuff. So just try to help as many people as possible.
Yeah, it's been great, Dustin. Thanks for inspiring our tribe, man. It's been great, and look forward to staying connected with you.
Absolutely, Michael. Thanks a lot, Michael Garrett. I appreciate it.